Welcome to my review video for the Broads trip. So I'm going to try and do this in one take, but I may end up splitting it. I thought I would go over the routes that I walked over the 3 days, kind of give my opinion and um, just generally talk about what I did. It was a good trip in March. Um, the weather was surprisingly good for the time of year, and because I went over a long weekend, it was actually quite quiet for the areas that I went to. I think particularly on the east side where the seals are, it would be very busy in the summer. And I did speak to a few people while I was there. And with the seals, because it's breeding time in November, lots of tourists and locals come down to the beach. And yeah, it's quite a manic mess, really. So this is what you're seeing here is the first real day's walk. Originally, it planned to walk all the way along the front, come inland where you can see this bit here, coming down this private lane, going around here, a little bit of road walking, Hickley, and then come back round via the canals, probably somewhere around here, and then come back round. It wasn't to be. The As you've hopefully seen on the video, there was private roads. I also had a run-in with a farmer, which was around probably around here, because I came off the path there, so it must have been along here that I thought that's why there's a detour that goes further along the coast and up. Originally, the routes said that you could go down here, even though it's not marked private, but you could go down here, walk along the lane, and then join the private road. Some of the reviews on this walk actually said it was fine, but maybe it was because they went when the farmer wasn't there or something. But typical, when I was at this location, the farmer appeared and they were doing work on the lane. It almost looked like they were building a car park, which was actually more frustrating because they clearly, well, maybe I'm reading into it, but if they were building a car park, then they were welcoming tourists. I was just 6 months early, I suppose. I started down here, Winterton-on-Sea, and I was actually staying just outside Norwich. So I was over here somewhere. Thorpe End, I was there. So it was somewhere around here. So it wasn't too far. I think it was about a 45-minute drive. Parked in the street, and it was street parking, and then joined the coast, and it's all along here. Hopefully it's not too laggy, but it's all these kind of grassland, moorland. It's very similar to New Forest on the Sea, and you walk along the front, and then you eventually join the dunes and the beach. This is actually a really nice place. There's lots of walks. There was more people walking around here than there was along the front, particularly in the morning. This is a car park that you can park in, obviously. But I think it was about £8 a day. So I was, which isn't too bad, I suppose, but um, I'm a cheapskate, so I parked just in the village, and there's plenty of car park spaces. There was another car park as well that you could park in. I don't know where it was. There, which is outside the village hall. Which there was actually space there to park. But originally, when I drove in, I was planning on to park there, but there was a load of cars all getting out at the same time. So I thought, oh, I'll come back, and I saw these spaces in the street. it was a beautiful day as well for March. It was glorious sun, and so walked all the way along the coast for roughly about 6 miles in one direction. Actually, I might change. This is on All Trails, if you're not familiar with it. And then walked all the way. That's where the run-in with the farmer was. And then came along this lane here. It wasn't too busy, but there was no um, there was no verges, so you were like, on and off the path. And then on the video, you can see me on this corner filming the sign going this way, and it was holiday parks. It did say private, and I was quite tempted, particularly after that setback with the farmer, to just walk down it. But because of the length of the lane, it goes all the way along here, and it joins. It's I think it must be 2 or 3 miles long, which if it's all on private, you're bound to get caught at some point. And I didn't want that risk of having to go back. The farmer did kind of put me in a bit of a bad mood because originally when I tried to talk to him, he said, "Go up the next lane where there was a tractor. There's a tractor somewhere along here." And I said, "Oh, okay, that's not too bad. At least it's not like a massive detour." So I walked up here, and then on here it said private as well. So I don't know where he'd forgot there was a private sign or he was just moving me on. I'm not sure. So it did kind of put me in a bit of a bad mood, and I wasn't feeling it at that point. So I turned back, walked all the way along the front again. By this time, a lot of the tourists had come out, and it was busy. And that was one of the major things about the trip that I've said to a lot of people since I've come back, is I was half expecting to see, you know, 5 seals maybe. There'll be like a couple in the sea, and there might be one or two on the beach. But you can see in my video the sheer shock of once I get on here, it's probably further along, um, around here somewhere. They just appear, and there's hundreds of them, and then because there's all these the water breaks along here. Don't know if it probably doesn't show on this map, but each one you have 20, you have 30, 40, and the next one they go back down to 10. It was crazy, really, and it's almost you kind of there's too many. I know that sounds a bad thing, but it's you see a few and you're like, wow, that's amazing. Then you see another few and you're like, oh, yeah, that's amazing. Um, and your kind of enthusiasm for them slowly dwindles. It's quite impressive though. But then coming back along here, and this is quite a point here because there's a fairly big car park somewhere around here. There it is, um, which is very, very popular. And so people are kind of milling around all of the time along here. And walking along here is awful. I'd absolutely hate it in the summer, or well, I hated it then, really. So then I walked back, got back in my car, had a pint in the village. It's quite a funny pub because it's a really low ceiling pub. And I went in, ducked down, and then all of the locals turned around and like looked at me, ordered a pint, and it was all a bit stagnant in there. It was quite a funny pub. I'm sure it was fine, but uh, I was not showing on the map. It's along this road anyway. So we'll go on to the next route now. So this is after I left here. It's probably early lunchtime, like 1 o'clock, half one, and so I drove to Horsey, and it's a nice place, and you park in the car park. You can pay by app as well. Um, and I did the canals. This is probably a classic walk that if you want to experience Norwich or kind of the Norfolk Broads, this is a real classic walk because you have all of the canals. It's fairly quiet for considering it was a Saturday. Um, Fairly quiet. It was quite cheap as well. You had windmills, you had the canals, you had quite high, like the grassy banks, and then there's a little bit of road-ish, like kind of gravel track. There was a pub here, and then you got the Horsey Seal viewing, which was even busier by that time, which was about half two, 3 o'clock. And then you kind of walk back around by the canals, and this bit here where I kind of detoured was incredibly boggy. It probably won't show up, but it was quite low-lying land. So that almost looks like a bit of a water soak away there. But actually, you can kind of see the, and it was like that. It was very low-lying. Actually, you can almost see it. It's a different color as well, isn't it? So it's probably just a natural floodplain. But yeah, the rest of it was all on gravel paths and fairly nice. There was quite a few boats along here, and um, yeah, it's a nice part of the world. I've always wanted to go to the Broads because it's n- it's not like anywhere else I've been. I live on the south coast, so it's about 4 hour drive, 3.5 hour drive, and I normally go to Wales or go to kind of Dartmoor where you've got some hills and it's a bit more in a kind of large landscape. But because Norwich is incredibly flat, I just it was somewhere I wanted to try, and I had a long week. I needed to use up some leave, so I thought it's a good time to try. So that's the two walks. So it was 13.7 and 5.3 in on that was day one. Day two, let's get these up. Um, so so this was day two. This was from Walsham, which was a fair drive. It was about a 40-minute drive, something like that. It's not the easiest of roads. And there was quite a lot of single lane tracks. All of these are very narrow lanes, and you come off here and it's a real single track. And originally, when I planned the route, I wanted to because I saw these two routes here, which are this makes a bit more sense on this side. Um, so you can see the route going round the bottom, and then that's it there. And then what I want to do is do a kind of a figure of eight. So I'd maybe start down here, do up to here, cross over, do this one, and then continue back round. But I did manage to get a route in, but it ended up being about 25 miles because you've got to rely on bridges. So I had to walk, starting around here, walk all the way down to the bridge, cross over, walk all the way up here, up to Fern, and then trying to get over to the other side is a pain because you've got to walk all the way over there. And this probably doesn't do it justice, but they're serious waterways. You know, there's room for at least two canal boats, probably four if you're pushed. So that you can't just jump across. Walk up to that bridge, hopefully get over it, walk all the way back, and then maybe somehow get up here, do this bit. But then I found, how am I going to get over this bit? I'm kind of stuck in that corner, other than walking all the way around because there's no way across any of these. So you've got to essentially walk all the way. Can you get over that bit? But there's a bit of a ferry there, so potentially I could have walked up here, got the ferry across, and then walked down this way. But it was a ridiculous walk. So I originally had planned to do it over a single day, and then it turned into a two-parter on a single day, which was kind of a funny coincidence because the first day's walk with the seals and the private lanes originally was a single day walk, and it was going to be a 20-ish mile walk. And then it turned into the kind of fiasco, and it ended up being a two-parter. So then day two was a two-parter, which was quite a I've never really done a two-parter. This was quite interesting. The car park was quite remote. I probably wouldn't trust it at night, but I'm sure it's okay. There's lots of expensive houses along here. And then walked along the canal, and you just essentially just keep walking. There's a couple of windmills, you see some boats, there's quite a lot of swans and geese about. Um, this will become a point later, which is you'll see in the second part of the video. I'm walking along here and I mention, oh, it must be an abandoned church or something, and then realised it is actually quite a feature. And you walk all the way along here. This is quite a nice little bit because in theory, you can walk on the outside, but when I tried to walk, I did briefly look down there, but there was a gate, and I think it looks quite swampy, so I'm sure it's probably not that safe. Um, but you walk on this inside, and both sides are quite high-sided, and yeah, you just keep walking. It is quite a nice walk, and then you come in, and that was a little kind of shipping maintenance place. Um, then come inland across some farm tracks, down some lanes, kind of rural, small little hamlets, a little bit more farmland, and then back to the beginning. It was a nice walk. I would recommend this one. It does slightly deteriorate once you come off here because this is quite boggy around here, and the houses they're just normal houses. They're not great to look at, but it's it is what it is. It's you can't always have an amazing walk, but it was nice. It's lots of water, and you come to the Broads to see the water and the wildlife and the birds. I'd recommend. And that one was 7.7 miles. Then part two of day two was another 7-ish mile one, and part just outside Ludham was a little almost lay-by really. It wasn't much of a car park. And then walked estuary side or canal side first around here, I think it is. Oh no, that's the Abbey there. So when on the other side, that's the Abbey, which is quite nice to go around. That's actually worth visiting. But once you come up at almost real long lane, and there was quite a lot of dodgy looking cars. I don't know. It's a funny place to park because you're. It's such a long lane. I would thought if you were going to park here, you'd park in Ludham, really. Yeah, I definitely wouldn't want to leave my car there. So I've just seen that. That might be quite interesting as well to see. Don't know how you get to it, but I suppose it's from the other side. And you can just see how much water there is. It's crazy. And you come off here. Oh yeah, that was a little pub on the corner. That was quite a nice little pub actually. What was that called? King's Arms. Yeah, that's a nice pub. Cheap beer, and then you come off. Oh, and that's the start. Trying to think where. Must be around here. I think it's around this bit here. That was quite boggy because there was some shops along here. Yeah, yeah. There's a few little boggy places. Nothing crazy, but as long as you've got some decent boots on, it was fine. And like I said, St Benet's Abbey is probably not that easy to get to, but particularly if you're not going to park there. But I would, yeah, quite an interesting place. It's yeah, would recommend. And then the third part is this one here. This is a little bit of a longer one. This was a longer drive as well. It was just over an hour, and so it's not really. As you can see, it said Suffolk Broads there, or Orford Broads. Um, so I was staying up here. I was staying up here, so it was about an hour and a half drive. I, the my reasoning behind it was that not that I'd seen everything in the Broads clearly over 2 days, but you've seen the seals, you've seen the beach, you've seen the canals, you've seen the windmills, you've seen a little bit more canals, you've seen some estuaries. You know, other than spending weeks there and walking on every single path, you've kind of seen quite a bit of it. So as I was up this way, I just wanted to see what this was like down here. Similar kind of landscape, still lots of water about, and there's lots of grasses, and yeah, there's lots of nature reserves. But it was parked there, just parked in the village. Um, yeah, opposite the church. And it was actually quite funny because I was trying to test out the GoPro while driving. So I've got a head mount. So I had the GoPro set up, and so I was driving along, and half an hour, and I went to test it, and all I could see was the mirror. The mirror was closed, but all I could see was the mirror and like partially part of the road because it was so much higher than what I expected, which is a bit of a fail, really. But I'm glad I tried it, and next time it should be better. So this one, like just short of 17 miles. I never really like to mention average pace and that kind of stuff because, particularly with filming and I'm on holiday, I'm not really walking that fast. But you can see that the average is kind of 20-ish minutes, isn't it? Got a 17:46 there. Um, but yeah, it's my normal pace is about 18 minutes, something like that. Not that I'm not going to mention that again. And then Orford, quite a nice town. Walked all the way along. This was quite an interesting place. Um, I'd like to know if you can get passes to go onto it because even though it says private, I don't know whether all of it's private. Um, there are, there's a beach there. There does seem to be some life on it. Whether it's a full national reserve, I'm not sure, but that's quite a nice place to visit. So then all along here, lots of water, similar to the kind of other stuff, but it's a little bit more expensive because you've got the sea. And then came inland. Um, Originally, while I was walking along here, because it was quite a long stretch, it was probably 7 miles to around here, I was thinking, oh, maybe I'll extend it and kind of rather than walk more inland, I might walk all the way around here and then come in somewhere like around here, or I can maybe before it, see how it kind of felt. But as soon as I got to here, there was a sign to say this is a protected area. Um, Please do so like respectively. Which so I thought, oh, I'll avoid it. And all of this bit here was quite marshy. You can see from the symbols, it was all very marshy, bogland, bogland, right, fairly low waters, and it's that type of land where it doesn't look that wet, but as soon as you step on it, the water swells up. And then all of the rest of it is kind of there's a few forests and like country parks. There's there's lots of pig farms. Really sunny day as well. Day two was a little bit overcast, but this day was nice. And then kind of came back and then a little bit more along the coast. This bit along here was quite interesting because you coming just out of the estate and then you've got all these huge houses. They slowly become a little bit more normal, but all of the people who I spoke to were clearly, you know, the king's cousin. They were quite wealthy, whether they lived in these houses or not. There's a fair bit of money around here. And then you come back in and and then yeah, no, it's enjoyable. I enjoyed the route. No, I thoroughly enjoyed the trip. It was on the way there. I stopped in Norwich because my Airbnb wasn't quite ready, and I wanted to make the most of the day, so I stopped in Norwich. That's a nice town. Lots to do. It's quite a spread out town, and there's lots of history. Old class, like the shops, is fairly generic. There are quite a few like boutique shops. It's similar to Bath, maybe in terms of shops, if you've ever been to Bath. And then on the way home, I stopped into Cambridge, which I would like to go back to actually because that's got that's definitely a long weekend stop. Where's Cambridge? Must be here. Ipswich. Colchester. Maybe it's further, is it? Chelmsford. There's London. There's Cambridge. Oh, there's Cambridge. Yeah, that's obviously it's got a lot of university history, but the buildings are really nice, and there's lots of unique shops, and yeah, you could definitely spend a long weekend there. And it's not too bad for me on the south coast. I think it's probably just short of 3 hours, so it's doable. That was going to Norwich was a little, not difficult, but it's actually the roads are surprisingly good. But it's it's a serious drive. Um, so yeah, that's it. Hopefully it comes out well.